"Mommy, my shoelace!" Hannah froze halfway across the marble-floored lobby, her 5-year-old son crouching down, frowning at the tangled mess on his sneakers. The receptionist's gaze already lingered on them too, one of those sharp, polished looks that seemed to slice right through her. Hannah's throat tightened. She knelt quickly, fingers trembling as she retied the laces. "You'll be okay, buddy," she whispered, forcing a smile. "Just sit with your crayons while Mommy talks to the nice people, all right?" Ethan nodded solemnly, clutching his little backpack. He was the reason she was here, the reason she'd left her last job, late-night shifts at a diner that barely covered rent. She had promised herself she wouldn't let him see her cry anymore when bills stacked up. This interview mattered. It was everything. But when Hannah stepped into the glass-walled meeting room, whispers immediately spread across the polished table. 3 men in suits and 2 women in pencil skirts turned their eyes from their laptops to her son, who clung shyly to her hand. "Ms. Parker," the tallest man said, his smile thin, "we weren't informed you'd be bringing company." I'm so sorry," Hannah began quickly, heart-hammering. "My sitter canceled last minute. I couldn't leave him home alone. He'll just sit quietly in the corner. Please, One of the women, immaculate in a navy blazer, leaned back in her chair. "This is a professional interview, not a daycare." Heat rushed up her neck. "I understand. The words tangled in her throat. She wanted to explain that she hadn't slept all night, that she'd spent her last few dollars on the bus fare here, that this job could mean food in the fridge instead of skipping meals so her son could eat. But all she saw in their eyes was judgment. The tall man closed his folder with a sharp snap. "I'm sorry, Miss Parker. This position requires absolute dedication. If you cannot even arrange proper childcare—" Something inside her cracked. She tightened her grip on Ethan's small hand, trying to mask the sting in her eyes. Rejected. Before she could even speak. She turned to leave, humiliation pressing down on her like heavy chains. And that's when the door at the far end of the room opened. He walked in with the kind of presence that made the air shift. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a charcoal suit that looked sculpted to him. His hair carried just a hint of gray at the temples, and his eyes, sharp, observant, swept across the room before landing on her. "Why is she leaving?" His voice was calm, but carried an authority that silenced everyone. The tall interviewer straightened nervously. "Mr. Lawson, we were just concluding." "Concluding?" His brow arched. "I haven't even begun." Hannah blinked. "Wait, this was Daniel Lawson? The CEO himself?" She'd read about him in the papers. Self-made millionaire, built an empire in tech, known for being ruthless in business but philanthropic outside it. He wasn't supposed to be here. Interviews at this level usually ended before people like him even glanced at the files. "She brought her child," the woman in the navy blazer explained delicately, as though that alone justified everything. Lawson's eyes shifted to Ethan. The boy clutched his crayons tighter but offered a small, shy wave. Something softened, almost imperceptibly, in the CEO's face. "Is that so?" Lawson walked over, crouched slightly, and extended his hand. "And who might you be?" Ethan peeked at his mom, then whispered, "Ethan. Strong name. I used to know an Ethan who climbed mountains." He straightened, gaze settling back on Hannah. "Miss Parker, is it? Why are you leaving?" Her throat constricted. "They said I wasn't suitable because I brought my son." A silence stretched. Lawson's jaw tightened. He turned back to the panel, his voice cutting like glass. "Did I ever instruct you to reject candidates based on their children?" "No, sir." "Then I'd like to conduct this interview myself." The panel shifted uneasily but said nothing as Lawson gestured for Hannah to sit. Her knees nearly buckled as she sank into the chair, Ethan curling beside her with his crayons spread on a sheet of paper. "So," Lawson began, folding his hands, "tell me, why do you want this job?" Her heart still pounded, but she forced herself to meet his eyes. "Because I need it. Not just for me, for him. I've worked nights, weekends, double shifts. I've served coffee at 3 a.m. to men who didn't even look at me when they tipped. I'm not afraid of work. I just want a chance to show I can do more." He studied her carefully. "And what do you do when everything goes wrong? When the sitter cancels, the bus breaks down, life throws you off balance?" She almost laughed bitterly. "I keep going. I don't get the choice to quit." For a moment his gaze softened, and she thought she saw something flicker behind his eyes. A memory, maybe, of someone he once knew. "What skills do you bring?" he asked next. She straightened. "I managed accounts at a logistics firm before the layoffs. I know spreadsheets, scheduling, communications. I've trained new hires. I can juggle 10 things at once and still get them right. And I don't give up." Ethan piped up suddenly, holding up his crayon drawing. "My mommy's the best at fixing stuff. She makes broken things work again." The room chuckled lightly. Even Lawson's lips curved into a faint smile. "She sounds resourceful," he said. Then, leaning forward, he asked, "If I hired you today, with your son right here, would you prove them wrong?" Her voice wavered, but the answer was clear. "Yes, every single day." The interview didn't last much longer. Lawson thanked her, asked Ethan about his favorite cartoon, then walked her to the elevator himself. "You'll hear from us soon," he said. Her chest ached with conflicting emotions, hope and fear tangled together. People like her don't get jobs like this. People like her walked out of glass buildings with nothing but heavier hearts. She held Ethan's hand tighter, whispering, "At least we tried." 2 days later, an email pinged on her phone. Hannah almost dropped it when she read the subject line. "Congratulations! Welcome to Lawson Enterprises." Her vision blurred. She read it again, then again, her breath catching. They wanted her. They hired her. Ethan tugged her sleeve. "Mommy, what happened?" She scooped him into her arms, laughing through tears. "We did it, baby! We did it!" On her first day, she expected the stares. Some whispered as she walked past, still skeptical, still judging. But Lawson himself appeared in the office, greeting her personally. "Remember," he said quietly as she settled at her desk, "you weren't chosen out of pity. You were chosen because you're capable. Don't ever forget that." She nodded, swallowing hard. "Thank you for seeing me." His gaze flicked briefly at Ethan's photo propped on her desk. "I grew up with a single mom," he admitted, voice lower now. "She worked 3 jobs and still came home smiling. She just needed someone to give her one chance. I figure the least I can do is be that someone for others." For the first time in years, Hannah felt something stronger than survival. She felt possibility. Weeks turned into months. She thrived at the company, proving herself again and again. Late nights were replaced with dinners at home with Ethan, laughter filling their small apartment. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was living. And every now and then, when Lawson passed her desk, their eyes met with an unspoken understanding. 2 people shaped by hardship, both refusing to let it define them. One evening, after a long day, Hannah tucked Ethan into bed. He clutched her hand sleepily and whispered, "Mommy, you're like a superhero." She brushed back his hair, tears stinging her eyes. "No, baby, I'm just your mom." But deep down, she finally believed it. Being his mom had made her stronger than anything else ever could. And all it took was one chance, one door opening when the rest had slammed shut.